Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gauda Bhaktivedanta. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivedanta. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nitai Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gauranga. Jaya Satchinandana Jaya Satchinandana. Jaya Gaura Hari Gaura Hari. Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Gaura Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Gaura Hari Bo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Vishnupada Paramahansa Paribhajacharya Ashtottara Sadasisi Mat. Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki. Jaya Vishnupada Paramahansa Paribhajacharya Ashtottara Sadasisi Mat. Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Thakur Prabhupada ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Itai Gaur Premanandi. Glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Well, today, reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, Chapter 4, text number 87. Sakala Brahmane Puri Vaishnava Karila Se seva Madhya Sabe Nijo Jila Sakala Brahmane Puri Vaishnava Karila Se seva Madhya Sabha Niyojila Sakala Brahmane Puri Vaishnava Karila Sabha Niyojila Sakala Brahmane Puri Vaishnava Karila Se seva Madhya Sabha Niyojila Sakala Brahmane Puri Vaishnava Karila Se seva Madhya Sabha Niyojila Sakala Brahmane Puri Vaishnava Karila Se seva Madhya Sabha Niyojila Sakala Brahmane Puri Vaishnava Karila Se seva Madhya Sabha Niyojila Vaishnavi. Brahmane Puri Vaishnava Karila Sakala Brahmane Puri Vaishnava Karila Se seva Madhya Sabha Karila Sakala Brahmane. All the Brahmins who were present there. Puri, Madhavendra Puri Goswami, Vaishnava Karila, elevated to the position of Vaishnavas. Say, under different divisions. Seva Madhya, in rendering service. Sabha, all of them, Niyojila, were engaged. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. All the Brahmins present on that occasion were initiated by Sri Madhavendra Puri into the Vaishnava cult, and Madhavendra Puri engaged them in different types of service. Please repeat. All the Brahmanas present on that occasion were initiated by Sri Madhavendra Puri into the Vaishnava cult, and Madhavendra Puri engaged them in different types of service. Purports. In the scriptures it is stated, Satkarma Nipuno Vipro Mantra Tantra Visharada. A qualified Brahmana must be expert in the occupational duties of a Brahmana. His duties are mentioned as 6 Brahminical engagements. Patana means that a Brahmana must be conversant with the Vedic scriptures. He must also be able to teach others to study Vedic literatures. This is patana. He must also be expert in worshipping different deities and in performing Vedic rituals, yajna. On account of this yajna, the Brahmana, being the head of society, performs all the Vedic rituals for Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. This is called yajna, assisting others in performing ceremonies. The remaining 2 items are dana and patigraha. The Brahmana accepts all kinds of reasons from his followers, namely the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas. Does not keep all the money, keeps only as much as required. Balance to others. Om Jnanatimirandasya Ganam Jana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Chaitanya Manobham Stabdam Yena Bhutale Namrupakadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, here Srila Prabhupada explains the duties of a Brahmana. This is the Varnashram system. Srila Prabhupada said on one occasion, it is the duty of the king, even though the Brahmana is above the king, but the king must be always diligent that the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras are properly engaged. Of course, the king would always defer to the Brahmanas, but if there was a deviant Brahmana, then the king would request the chief Brahmana that, do something. Just like in the case of, what was his name? Niyusha, that he was sent to the heavenly planets because Indra was in exile. And so he became a little proud, and he started to think, I'm in the position of Indra. Indra's wife is there, so I should enjoy his wife. And the Brahmins thought, this is what we get for bringing a mortal to the heavenly planets. He brought his lusty tendency. So they tried to reason with him, but he was thinking, I'm very proud. I'm better than these Brahmanas. And so they got together and chanted mantras and exiled him from the heavenly planets. So the Varnashram system, as Srila Prabhupada says again and again and again in his books, is so important. And the most important part of it, as Srila Prabhupada says, that we are living in a headless society. A society, there's basically two types of thinking in modern society. One is capitalist, and the other is communist or socialist. So, capitalist society is run by Vaishyas, who generally are greedy, and communist society is run by communist mentality, which is generally ignorant. So either you're governed by greed or by ignorance. Not a very good combination. But actually, if we study the Varnashram system, all the different types of social organization are included. Just like among the Brahmanas, there's a type of democracy, in the sense that they all agree. They come together, they discuss, not so much by voting like modern democracy, but by discussion, they come to an agreement. And then there's monarchy. The Kshatriyas are monarchs. And then there's capitalism with the Vaishyas. And there's communism. And there's anarchy, the sadhus. They're like anarchists, meaning they're not governed by anyone. But they're not against governance, they're simply beyond governance. So all these things that again and again and again we try in modern society. Purnas charvita charvananam. Especially nowadays, it goes back and forth, especially in the area where I serve. There's a capitalistic wave coming from U.S. and from Europe, and then they become frustrated because they can't endorse it properly. So then another socialistic wave comes through, and then everything falls apart. And then another capitalistic wave comes through, and they can't understand the most perfect system. Actually, whenever I've had a chance to speak with any head of state, because of course here in India you can speak with heads of state because they're respectful to sadhus, but in most other countries it's not so easy. But since we have a lot of small countries, so I'm able to speak to several presidents and prime ministers, because there's only some of the countries. There's only 200,000 people in the whole country, so it's not so hard to get in to see the president. And then I always speak to them about Varnashram. So in one situation in Guyana, in South America, I was speaking with the president and the prime minister, and they liked it because they're it's half Indian population, and then they liked it. I explained Varnashram, how it could work, and you need ministers, and they would like Brahmins, and we can have our devotees in some of those posts as ministers. So they decided yes, and they got some devotees. But then immediately the other ministers who simply trying to steal money from the government, they didn't like the idea of having honest people above them, so they ruined the whole thing. But anyway, we tried. So it's not easy to establish Varnashram Dharma or it's not easy what to speak of establishing Krishna consciousness in modern society. In India, it's much easier, as we can see, so much prosperity because the Hinduism is a remnant of the Vedic system of Sanatana Dharma. So people can take it. But even now, so filtering into India, so much Western degradation. Just like I'm just came from Vrindavan, and the girls, they're not even ladies. They're dressing like they want to be like the others. Srila Prabhupada said one time, if you go fishing, because we also fish, devotees also go fishing, but not for fish. We go fishing for conditioned souls and try to pull them out of Maya. So Prabhupada said, when you go fishing, don't get pulled in to the water. So that means for us, when we go to preach, we don't take up their habits. We try to give them Vaishnava habits. When Srila Prabhupada was in New York in the beginning, he spoke with this Dr. Mishra. And so this Mishra, he liked Prabhupada. Prabhupada chanted so beautifully and he spoke. But then he was starting to see that everyone was becoming attracted to Prabhupada and not so attracted to me. So he said, Swamiji, you can chant, but you can't speak. So Prabhupada said, what's the use? And then he said to Prabhupada, he said, Swamiji, you're going to have to learn to use the knife and fork, which basically meant if you want to live in this society, you're going to have to eat meat. And then later, in Vrindavan, Prabhupada was invited by one of his godbrothers who had been in England, and he formed an institute. So he invited Prabhupada and some of the devotees for prasadam. But they had a big table with knives and forks and plates. And Prabhupada said, just see, he has gone to the West and brought back their habits. He said, I went to the West to give them. I have not come to beg. Also in one lecture in MIT University, which is the IIT, MIT, similar big, topmost technological science institution. So Prabhupada gave a lecture, and most of the students were Indian. Many of them were Indian. There was no IIT at that time. So all the really topmost Indian students would go to the Stanford, MIT, or some other places in Europe. And so afterwards the Indian boys came and they gathered around him. And Prabhupada said, you have come to learn from the West, and I have come to teach the West. And therefore, I am requesting you also teach them. You must learn your culture, the wealth of India. You have the greatest wealth. So we all have this greatest wealth. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave a special duty to the Indians. I've been requesting for years that we need to bring Indian devotees who are nicely trained to preach in the West. Most of them go as pujaris or cooks, and looking for some integration program. But we need to bring qualified. Therefore, all of you should become very qualified. And some of you can go there and teach them. Because in the West, practically no one wants to join. Very difficult. They want to be like distant in the far orbit, the Plutonian orbit of Krishna consciousness. The outer orbit. And, of course there's some serious devotees. But I've been saying for years that we should bring, just like Prabhupada brought Western devotees, and when India there was a lack of, and Prabhupada brought Western devotees. So now there are so many qualified Indian devotees. And I remember one time I was in Madras, that time it was called Madras, Chennai. And there was one simple man, in the kirtan. And one devotee said, do you know who he is? No. He said, he is the wealthiest man in Tamil Nadu. But he looked like a very simple man. So sometimes I see brahmacharis, they look simple, but they have a doctorate degree or master's degree, doctorate degree, very qualified. So all of you, this is an advertisement, for We need to have strong preachers in the West who believe in the full manifestation of the Vedic culture. Not some, of course there has to be some little bit of tolerance. Prabhupada was very tolerant. But there's been too much tolerance. And instead of us changing the West is changing our devotees in the Western, and not here. So we have to be very careful. Maya doesn't creep in. So this Brahminical culture is very important. Srila Prabhupada said civilization has three aspects. One, there is Brahminical culture. Everyone supports the Brahminical culture. Two, the protection of the cows. And three, that the objective of society should be love of Godhead. These three things. Prabhupada said, otherwise, no civilization. Just like sometimes we say Greek civilization, Roman civilization, but it wasn't civilized. It was uncivilized. Civilization, if there's no protection of the cows, there's no civilization. And so we have such a great wealth that our original culture has inculcated, has instilled within society. Some remnants are still there. So we have to fill in the gaps that have been left over the time, sakala neha. That time has devastated the Vedic culture. And by Srila Prabhupada's mercy and the mercy of our acharyas, that is being awakened again. And so we see this in the case of Madhavendra Puri. So what did Madhavendra Puri do? He initiated. These were Brahmins. These were very qualified persons. And Madhavendra Puri was a very simple Vaishnava. But he was the most qualified. Just like Sudam Brahman, when he went to Dwarka, and he saw everyone was dressed in nice silk and jewels, and he had torn clothing. And he saw the Brahmins, like beautiful clothing, nice, they had opulence, nice ghee, and he was like, he could barely eat, torn up clothing. He thought they will throw me out. He was amazed. They kept letting him go through by Krishna's arrangement. And he came right into Krishna's quarters. So Madhavendra Puri, but everyone could see, immediately they could see. Why could they see? Because Gopal revealed himself to Madhavendra Puri. And so this process is described in the Bhagavatam, that when we're Krishna conscious, of course also Kapila Day, Satam Prasangam Mamavirya Sambido Bhavanti Vitkana Rasayana Kata. That when we associate with devotees, and especially devotees who are more advanced than us, then, and what is the subject matter? Mamavirya Sambido. Kapila Day say, when people come together and speak about my glories, then bhavanti vitkana rasayana kata. Then this mood of devotion comes through the ear and is established in the heart. And so this is very, very important, that if we want to spread Krishna consciousness, if we want to be qualified so that we can instruct the Brahmins. Generally, Brahmins who are not Vaishnavas, they can become a little proud, especially in Kali Yuga. In previous yugas, they were more humble. But even sometimes they would become very angry. You did something against the rules, they could be very strict, curse you. But a Vaishnava never curses anyone. Just like, except Narada Muni, very qualified Vaishnava, he can curse, and by that curse, one is blessed. And of course, sometimes if we're very attached to material life, everything in Krishna consciousness seems like a curse. I have to get up too early, I have to do this, I have to do that. Seems like a curse in the beginning. as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, what is nectar in the beginning is poison at the end, and what is poison in the beginning is nectar at the end. So we have to become very qualified. Once in Mumbai, Srila Prabhupada sent 2 devotees out to, I won't mention their names so they're not embarrassed. No. He sent them out to preach, and they came back, and they said, Srila Prabhupada, we met one Mayavad sannyasi, and he defeated us. He said, he knew so many mantras, so many verses. No. And we see this, especially you go to South India, the Brahmins, they recite thousands of verses. And it just like speaking. But of course, many of them are Vaishnavas, but many of them are not Vaishnavas, and they become proud. And therefore, Prabhupada said, you must know, if you are Brahmanas, you must know my books, you must study my books. Otherwise, what is the meaning of Brahmana? Just some thread hanging off the body, just some title, just some upadhi. No. So, Madhavendra Puri, of course, he was not thinking himself above these Brahmanas, but he's thinking, Gopal has given me a service. And Gopal, in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has given us a service. Ateva ami agya dilun sabakari jahan tahan premapala deha jaritari. He said, I order everyone within the universe that you must take this Krishna consciousness and spread it everywhere. That was his instruction. Everyone's included. And then, after he said that, he said, Bharata Bhumiti Hoila Manusha Janma Jar, that Janma Sartaka Korikoro, Para Upakar. And especially all of you, not me, I'm only in the first category. All of you have been born in India. And so you have special duty to give this Krishna consciousness. Para upakar, we have to feel compassion and love for all of these persons who are so bewildered. Just like yesterday in Vrindavan before I left, all the pilgrims come on Sunday. And they think, oh, let me get this little stamp on my head and do, just some external thing. And they think I have successfully taken advantage of Vrindavan. Of course, many of them go to our temple or other Vaishnava temples, but still, generally speaking, their consciousness is external. Because what are they looking for? External blessings. Let me go and bow down to the Lord, and then what they're really doing is now the Lord can bow down to me, and He can give me what I want. So this is not our process. So Madhavendra Puri, he initiated these Brahmins. They could immediately realize his greatness, his effulgence, and the fact that Gopal spoke to him. Gopal called him and said, take me out of this bush and install me. And so Madhavendra is simply following the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if we simply follow the orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as given to us by our Parampara and Srila Prabhupada, then also people will surrender. So I'll just read a little more of the purport. In order for such a qualified Brahmin to worship the deity, he must be a Vaishnava. Thus, the Vaishnava's position is superior to that of the Brahmana. The example given by Madhavendra Puri confirms that even though a Brahmana may be very expert, he cannot become a priest or a servitor of the Vishnu Murti unless he is initiated in the Vaishnava mantra. After installing the deity of Gopal, Madhavendra Puri initiated all the Brahmins into Vaishnavism. He then allotted the Brahmanas different types of service to the deity. From 4 in the morning until 10 at night, from Mangal Artik to Shayana Artik, there must be at least 5 or 6 Brahmins to take care of the deity. 6 artis are performed in the temple, and food is frequently offered to the deity, and the prasadam distributed. This is the method of worshipping the deity according to the rules and regulations set by predecessors. Well, Srila Prabhupada said that actually in previous times the temple would feed everyone. Everyone in the whole community around, they would come to the temple. I remember going to Guru Vayor, Jagannath Puri to some degree, but Guru Vayor, they feed thousands and thousands of people every day. Anyone who comes, they must give prasadam. They don't pay. No, it's all done as a service. So this whole ceremony, which is mentioned in previous verses, it was like the Anakuta ceremony in the Govardhan Leela. It was like a second, of course, there was no Indra interfering, but this time with the Muslims, they interfered. You know, they attacked the devotees hid the deity, and the deity manifested to give his mercy to the devotees. So here it says that one must be a Vaishnava to worship the deity. Of course, in some temples, some Vishnu temples in South India I've seen, they have Mayavadis worshipping the deity. I've seen that in a few temples. And when I went to Tirupati, then the Brahmins invited me into the altar, in the altar area, and I saw there was Mayavadis, in there. I said, so what are these Mayavadis doing? He said, we just let them wash the pots and polish the, they don't go on the altar. We just have them, because that way they engage in service. So I was very happy to see that. And that in Tirupati they're very strict. And so another thing from this, what we just read, Srila Prabhupada says there must be 5 or 6 Brahmins. Of course, here we're very fortunate in India that you have many Brahmins to do these services. But you go to Western temples, some devotees are here from the West, sometimes there's one or 2 devotees. It's very difficult. And that's why so many devotees in India, we need to go and help these poor Western temples. Their preaching is diluted sometimes, too much. We have to adjust a little bit, but not too much. And deity worship is sometimes not carried out properly. They have to import people from other places because everyone is so busy trying to make money and get ahead. So I'm saying this so you appreciate so much what you have here. You have the greatest wealth, the greatest opportunity to become Krishna conscious. Those of us who work in Western countries, such a struggle just to get someone to be a steady Brahmin, and yet then usually they last for 4 or 5 years, then they're gone, just working or doing something else. So fortunate. And another thing I wanted to mention, Srila Prabhupada mentions from Mangal Artik, or from 4 in the morning to 10 at night. In the 2nd canto, the 3rd chapter, text number 22 or 23, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, every grihastha should, from 4 in the morning to 10 at night, they should have all these activities. They should have deities of, he says, deities of Radha Krishna, Sita Ram, Shalagram, or Gornitai. And they should worship those deities from 4 in the morning to 10 at night. And Prabhupada said anyone who is 12 years old, they should be initiated and engaged in the worship of the deity. So this is the ideal that Srila Prabhupada wanted. This is actually Vedic society. One grows up, just like Srila Prabhupada grew up, worshipping the deity. And so this is what we have to establish here in India and everywhere in the world, that people grow up in Krishna consciousness. and they become Vaishnavas. So just to finish the Srila Prabhupada's purport. This method of worshipping the deity according to the rules and regulations set by our predecessors. Our sampradaya belongs to the disciplic succession of Madhavendra Puri, who belong to the Madhya sampradaya. We are in the disciplic succession of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was initiated by Sri Ishwara Puri, a disciple of Madhavendra Puri's. Our sampradaya is therefore called the Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. As such, we must carefully follow in the footsteps of Sri Madhavendra Puri and observe how he installed the Gopal deity on the top of Govardhan Hill, how he arranged and performed the Anakuta ceremony in only one day, and so forth. Our installation of deities in America and in the wealthy countries of Europe should be carried out in terms of Sri Madhavendra Puri's activities. All the servitors of the deity must be strictly qualified as Brahmins, and specifically must engage in the Vaishnava custom of offering as much prasadam as possible and distributing it to the devotees who visit the temple to see the Lord. So being a Vaishnava is so important. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu invited the residents of Kulinagram to come to Rath Yatra, they came and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that Kulinagram is very fortunate because it is the place of Gunaraj Khan. Gunaraj Khan wrote a book, Sri Krishna Vijay, and he said, he is so qualified that I even offer my respects to the dogs in that village. Otherwise, when you have a qualified Vaishnava, then everyone becomes purified. So then Satyaraj Khan and Ramananda Vasu, they asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they said, we are grihastas and living in materialistic life. So how can we become purified? How can we become engaged properly in devotional service? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Krishna Seva, Vaishnava Seva, Nirantara Shri Harinam Sankirtan. That you do Krishna Seva, you do Vaishnava Seva, and you constantly chant the holy name of Krishna. Kirtaniya Sada Hari. So they said, what is a Vaishnava? What is it? Of course they knew, but they're asking for us, for our benefit. Who is a Vaishnava? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, a Vaishnava is one who chants the holy name once. And Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, what does once mean? It doesn't mean like our once. No. Like I've chanted so many times, so I must be a Uttamadhikari by now. No. Once means without offenses. If you chant one time without offenses, which means if I'm still full of material desires, I haven't achieved that yet. And then Prabhupada says something very, very important. He said, when one is initiated by the spiritual master, and when one engages in devotional service under the instructions of the spiritual master, he is a pure devotee. This is like the lower end of pure devotional service. So that is the importance of Guru. Sometimes we think Guru is just there to say some nice things, give a class, and and then I do what I want. That's not, no. We must, actually this whole process of parampara is meant to convert us into pure devotees. But as long as we're on the neophyte platform, then you can be a pure devotee only when you're strictly following. When the orders of the spiritual master are my life and soul, as Srila Prabhupada said, reading the purport to by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur to Bhagavad Gita 2:41. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kuru nandana. There's only one thing to do. No. There's only one type of consciousness, which is to be absorbed. All of our intelligence, all of our senses, everything. Hridvag vapubir vidadhan namaste. Our feelings, our thoughts, and our actions, and our words, all engaged in satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead under the instructions of Sri Guru. This is our process. As Srila Prabhupada said, we don't accept the Guru as, some fashion. Or because everybody's getting initiated, let me get initiated. And in that particular section, Srila Prabhupada explains, he says, therefore, we tell everyone, you come to the class, you hear, and after 6 months of serious hearing, then you can be initiated. And then when you're chanting 16 rounds faithfully, following all the 4 regulative principles very strictly, and hearing from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, then you can become initiated take second initiation. So Prabhupada wanted a very strict movement. And therefore, practicing Krishna consciousness requires, just like every morning we recite the Shikshastakam. I usually do it before I start chanting, in the morning before Mangalarti. So we recite the Shikshastakam, but we have to follow it. Not that we just say something, like some ritual. It's not a ritual. It's a meditation. We have to meditate on it. Not that in some places, and here I've heard also, devotees chant it slowly so that you're getting absorbed. Not that I chant slowly so that I go to sleep. No. But we chant so we can meditate on it. We have to learn the meaning of every part of the Shikshastakam, so that while we're chanting it, it enters into our heart and prepares us for chanting the holy name. And the most important part, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Durdaivam idvishami hajani nanuraga. I have no attraction. He's taking our position. He's telling us, he's revealing to us our position. So how do you get that attraction? Trinadapi sunichena. You must be humble. And tarori vasishnuna. You must be tolerant. You must be respectful. You must not look for any recognition. Then you can chant. And then to make sure that we understand that properly, what is the effect of being humble? So someone may think, I'm humble? Well, I think I'm humble, yeah. I'm very tolerant. So what is the effect? Na dana, na jana, na sundari. That is the result of being humble. Not that it's something that I imagine. No, everything is clearly explained. Kavita va, and also no fruitive activities. That's also, sometimes we just like those 3. That's difficult enough. What to speak of no fruitive activity. So this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just as Gopal instructed Madhavendra Puri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing us how to chant the holy name. We have to take this very seriously so that we can chant one time. The next year, when Satyaraj Khan came again, he asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as if he had forgotten, what is a Vaishnava? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, someone who is always chanting the holy name. Otherwise, the first time, he was describing Kanishta Adhikari, because Srila Prabhupada said, even a Kanishta Adhikari can be a pure devotee if they're very strict, and they can actually chant the holy name once without offenses, and they become very, very fixed up devotees. Prabhupada actually says, therefore, because the Kanishta Adhikaris are pure devotees, meaning a serious Kanishta Adhikari, Therefore, they can go out and preach to everyone and bring them to Krishna consciousness. So therefore, even as Kanishthadikaris, we can go out and distribute Srila Prabhupada's books and preach Krishna consciousness. But then if you're always chanting the holy name, then you're Madhyam Adhikari. And that's even more qualified. And then he came back the next year and he asked again, what is a Vaishnava? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, one whom when you see them, you want to chant the holy name. That is like Srila Prabhupada. Just by seeing Prabhupada. And I'll conclude with this. One time Srila Prabhupada went to this program in Atlanta, Georgia, in the USA. This man was famous for inviting people and trying to insult them and show how they're tear apart their whole idea. So he invited Srila Prabhupada. He thought, I will show these Hare Krishnas, they're just cults, they're just some cult members. So, so they brought in Prabhupada, there was a chair. So just to add injury to insult, the devotees ran in, took out the chair, and brought a Vyasasana. And Prabhupada sat on the Vyasasana. Here's this man, envious man. But he started speaking to Prabhupada. And he said, he started out very heavy. Why do you shave your head? Prabhupada said, oh, it's very clean. And he said, also in your army, I think they also shave the head. So he was like, he didn't expect that answer. And then a few more challenging questions, and Prabhupada was so pure and so simple. By the end of the conversation, he said, Swami, whenever you come, please come to my program. From that point on, he just let Prabhupada speak. Prabhupada was so pure. So this is the effect of the Uttamadhikari. But whether we're Kanishta, Madhyam, or Uttamadhikaris, whatever we may be, the duty is the same. Our duty is to just in the following, as Srila Prabhupada says, in the case of deity worship and in the case of being inspired by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we have to take the orders of the Lord as our life and soul and give them to others. And when we're worshiping the deity, we worship them in such a way that anyone who comes and sees the deities will be attracted to Krishna. There's like so many thousands of people are coming here, and they're so attracted by the deities. But then we have to preach to them, because they can go to so many temples and see deities. Although definitely our deities are the most beautiful, no doubt. Even in Vrindavan, you go to the other temples, and people come and they go around and they chant a little bit. But in our temple, they're all taking pictures, and of course in other temples, some they don't allow them to take pictures. But they're overwhelmed by the beauty of our deities. Because Srila Prabhupada set this high standard. The deity must be worshipped so beautifully. Krishna dedicates one whole chapter in his teachings to Uddhava, one whole chapter of Bhagavatam, the importance of deity worship. And of course all through the Bhagavatam. Sometimes Prabhupada says that deity worship is for neophyte devotees. What that means is that neophyte devotees must worship the deity. An advanced devotee may or may not worship the deity. Maybe they will, maybe they don't have time, maybe they're busy preaching. But the neophyte, but that doesn't mean the advanced devotee, because Madhavendra Puri is personally doing the worship. He personally did the artik. And he was the most advanced devotee. So this deity worship, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, the most important 5 angas of bhakti, Sadhu Sangha, Nama Kirtan, Bhagavata Shravana, association with Vaishnavas, chanting the holy name, hearing the Bhagavatam, Mathura Vasa, living in a holy place or purifying your place of residence by putting deities there and by purifying the atmosphere. And Shimurtiya, Shraddhaya Sevana, and worshipping the deity with great faith. these, if we do these 5 things very carefully, now we're sitting, we're associating, we're hearing Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we're chanting the holy name, we're living in this wonderful transformation of matter into Vrindavan by these temples, and we're worshiping the deity. So this is the perfection of life. And we have this all by Srila Prabhupada's mercy and by the devotees who are representing Srila Prabhupada. Therefore we must all become a bona fide representative of Srila Prabhupada. When I joined the first temple I went to, I said, I want to shave my head. They said, no. I said, first you must prove yourself to be a bona fide follower of Prabhupada, then you can shave your head. So I had to go out on Sankirtan and do this and do that. Then, okay, now you can shave your head. So, but whether shaving your head or not, we have to become sincere, qualified servants of Srila Prabhupada and his Sankirtan movement. So thank you very much for your attention. Any comment or question?
Thank you. Yourself or myself? Thank you. I will speak Hindi and English both. Or you will translate into English. So take mic from Maharaj. तो यहाँ पर बताया गया है कि जितने ब्राह्मण हैं उनको माधवेंद्र पुरी ने वैष्णव बना दिया और उनको जो है भगवान की अर्चा विग्रह की सेवा में लगा दिया। तो उन दिनों ब्राह्मण होते थे वंश के अनुसार, ब्राह्मण के परिवार में जो पैदा है वो ब्राह्मण होता था और उसको ब्राह्मण का प्रशिक्षण भी दिया जाता था। तो जिस समय माधवेंद्र पुरी थे तो उस समय ब्राह्मणों का जो भी परिवार होता था वो जो है ऐसे शुद्ध ब्राह्मण होते थे और जो भी बच्चा पैदा हो उसको ब्राह्मण का प्रशिक्षण दिया जाता था। तो माधवेंद्र पुरी ने उन्हीं ब्राह्मणों को जो जन्म से ब्राह्मण माने जाते थे उनको ही वैष्णव बनाया और भगवान की सेवा में लगाया। लेकिन माधवेंद्र पुरी के बाद जो समय आया कलयुग का, जिस समय भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर थे तो उस समय ब्राह्मणों के समाज में कलयुग का प्रभाव बहुत बढ़ गया और जो ब्राह्मण समाज में जो ब्राह्मण परिवार में लोग पैदा होते थे तो उनको प्रशिक्षण नहीं मिलता था ब्राह्मणों का और ना ब्राह्मणों के उनके अंदर गुण होते थे। तो भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर ने फिर जो है जो दूसरे वर्ग के लोग हैं, चाहे शूद्र हो चाहे कोई भी हो, उनको उन्होंने ब्राह्मण बनाया और उस समय फिर बड़ा विरोध हुआ। तो माधवेंद्र पुरी का कोई विरोध नहीं हुआ क्योंकि वो ब्राह्मणों को उन्होंने वैष्णव बनाया। वो ब्राह्मण अपने जन्म से थे और वो उनके अंदर प्रशिक्षण अपने परिवार से ही प्रशिक्षण प्राप्त होता था। लेकिन जब भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर ने जो ब्राह्मण परिवार में नहीं पैदा हुए हैं उनको जब ब्राह्मण बनाया तो फिर काफ़ी विरोध हुआ और ये बहुत आवश्यकता थी कि ब्राह्मणों का प्रशिक्षण दिया जाए और उसके अनुसार प्रशिक्षण के अनुसार ही ब्राह्मण बनाए जाएं। और इस प्रकार से फिर प्रभुपाद ने पूरी दुनिया में जब मंदिर बनाए तो जो है ऐसे ही लोगों को ब्राह्मण बनाए। वहाँ तो कोई ब्राह्मण का नाम ही नहीं है, ब्राह्मण की का जो है कोई वर्ण और आश्रम की व्यवस्था ही नहीं है। तो म्लेच्छों को ही जो है प्रभुपाद ने ब्राह्मण बनाया। तो प्रभुपाद का भी काफ़ी लोगों ने विरोध किया। लेकिन यहाँ पर समझने वाली बात यह है कि माधवेंद्र पुरी को जैसी चिंता है कि भगवान की पूजा होनी चाहिए, अर्चा विग्रह की पूजा होनी चाहिए, तो ऐसे जो है लोग हों जो कि शुद्धता के नियमों का पालन करें और भगवान की पूजा करें, अर्चा विग्रह की पूजा करें और उनकी जो है भगवान के अर्चा विग्रह की पूजा बड़े शुद्ध तरीके से होना चाहिए। तो इस प्रकार से प्रभुपाद ने जो है अर्चा विग्रहों की पूजा की स्थापना की और जो है ब्राह्मण दीक्षा की भी जो है स्थापना की। फिर प्रभुपाद ने भगवान से भी कहा कि मैंने आपको आमंत्रित कर दिया और अनेक मंदिर आपके बना दिए, अब इन म्लेच्छों को भी आप ऐसी बुद्धि दीजिए कि वे आपकी ठीक से सेवा कर पाएं। जिस प्रकार से माधवेंद्र पुरी की चिंता थी कि गोपाल अर्चा विग्रह की पूजा सेवा अच्छी प्रकार से होती रहे और हजारों सालों तक होती रहे, माधवेंद्र पुरी की चिंता थी, उसी प्रकार से प्रभुपाद की भी चिंता थी कि उन्होंने इतने मंदिर बना दिए पूरी दुनिया में, राधा कृष्ण के मंदिर बना दिए, गौरनिताई के मंदिर बना दिए, अब आगे चल कर के भी इनकी पूजा सेवा बड़ी शुद्ध तरीके से होती रहे और नियमित तरीके से होती रहे। तो इस प्रकार से प्रभुपाद की इच्छा के अनुसार पूरी दुनिया में जो मंदिर हैं तो उनमें इस्कॉन के जो भक्त हैं, इस्कॉन के जो ब्राह्मण दीक्षित ब्राह्मण हैं, तो वो भारत के जो जाति ब्राह्मण हैं उनकी तुलना में बहुत अच्छे हैं और उनके नियम बहुत अच्छे हैं। तो चाय कॉफ़ी तक नहीं छूते हैं, जबकि आजकल के भारत में जो जाति ब्राह्मण हैं तो वो जो है तम्बाकू भी खाते हैं, सुपारी, तम्बाकू, ये सब उनके लिए सामान्य बातें होती हैं। तो माधवेंद्र पुरी की शिष्य परंपरा में जो हमारे प्रभुपाद जी आए तो उन्होंने उसी प्रकार से माधवेंद्र पुरी की ही तरह चिंता की, है ना, कि भगवान के अर्चा विग्रहों की स्थापना जहाँ भी होती है तो अच्छी प्रकार से पूजा हो, सेवा हो, और पूरी दुनिया में बड़ा अच्छा ये जो है एक प्रसिद्धि है, इस्कॉन के मंदिरों की विशेष प्रसिद्धि है कि यहाँ ठीक समय पर भगवान की पूजा होती है, ठीक समय पर शंख बजता है, ठीक समय पर दर्शन होता है, और बड़े अच्छे तरीके से जो है होती है सेवा पूजा। तो माधवेंद्र पुरी की जो चिंता वही चिंता प्रभुपाद की। तो कभी प्रभुपाद से किसी भक्त ने कहा कि प्रभुपाद जब आप आते हैं तो आपके होने से हमारी अर्चा विग्रहों की सेवा में या उनके दर्शन में हमारी बड़ी श्रद्धा होती है। तो प्रभुपाद बोले यही तो मेरी चिंता है कि मेरे जाने के बाद क्या होगा। तो प्रभुपाद इतनी चिंता करते थे कि भगवान की सेवा पूजा ऐसा नहीं कि जब तक प्रभुपाद हैं तब तक तो होती रहे और जब प्रभुपाद चले जाएंगे तो ना होती रहे। तो प्रभुपाद की बहुत चिंता थी इस मामले में। तो हम ये समझें कि माधवेंद्र पुरी की जो चिंता वही शिष्य परंपरा से प्रभुपाद को भी चिंता हुई और वही उसी परंपरा में हम लोग भी चिंता करें कि भगवान के अर्चा विग्रह की सेवा पूजा बहुत अच्छी प्रकार से होती रहे। हरे कृष्णा। कृष्ण की थैंक यू।
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else?
And when we accepted Prabhupada, he made us Brahmin, and we practiced his principles. Prabhupada was ready to forgive us for our past karma. And from the day we met Prabhupada, he made us Brahmin. And he said that my society will never perish because my devotees will carry it forward because I trust them. He gave us initiation because he trusted us. And he said that my society will never perish. And these common Brahmins or people who pretend to be Brahmin, they always criticize. So I know one day you practice Brahmin, next day you are something else. But Prabhupada was ready to forgive us for for our past, and for the present we are practicing his principles, and so I feel that Prabhupada's mission is very successful.
Yeah.
These Brahmins are not very strong. I don't think so.
Of course, Srila Prabhupada gives us the opportunity. We have to take advantage of it. He may give, like in our society, people get initiated, they get second initiation, but then we have to take it seriously. Not see it as in a mechanical way. Oh, now I'm a Brahmin. But you have to live according to those principles. And, so that means we have so much more work to do. As we just stated, we are not trained. The Brahmins nowadays are not properly trained. And so Srila Prabhupada wanted our society to evolve to the point where actually people grow up in Krishna consciousness, they're properly trained, and then we can have very, very qualified Brahmins. But our main Brahminical activity, apart from deity worship, is preaching Krishna consciousness and giving it to others. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, my question is, we know many philosophies, but then also we commit mistakes, and some mistakes repeatedly. So how we can stop those mistakes, and how we can repent or do paschatap after doing same mistake again and again. We realize that I repeated same mistake. How can we stop this?
The best way is by hearing carefully and being very determined. Otherwise, Srila Prabhupada, one of the things that most disturbed him was when somebody would commit the same mistake over and over again. He would say, one time Srila Prabhupada, he was very angry. He said, I told you once, I told you twice. He said 3 times, no more. Otherwise, just like in the U.S., they have baseball, and if you miss it 3 times, you're out. So Prabhupada, of course, Prabhupada was very compassionate, but he was very frustrated when he would give some instruction. If somebody failed or made a mistake 1 time, 2 times, but if you, otherwise Prabhupada was making the point, if you make the same mistake more than 2 times, when you've been instructed how to do it properly, then you're not very serious. Just means you're not very serious. So we have to be serious. In the 2nd canto, 8th chapter, Shukadeva Goswami is instructing Parikshit, and he says, Shrindutam Shradaya Nityam Grinatascha Svachashtitam. He's saying, so these 2 things, if you do these 2 things, you always hear very carefully and with great faith, and then you very seriously apply it. Just like sometimes people read the books or hear, but they don't apply it. It just becomes theoretical knowledge. So therefore Krishna says, Jnana Vijnana Samhitam. You have to have the knowledge and the realization or the application of the knowledge. They must be together. And then the knowledge becomes solidified in our heart. If we just hear theoretical knowledge and we don't apply it, and therefore I was mentioning yesterday that Srila Prabhupada, I heard him say this 3 times. He said, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. He said, first, pratipatena. First, you become submissive. And then sevaya. Then you do service. And then pariprashna. Then you will know what questions to answer. Because all questions should be about how can I serve Krishna better? No. Prabhupada said, otherwise you will simply waste the time of the Guru. Just asking all kinds of questions, our mind is so fickle, our mind is so confused. So first, you become submissive, you do service, and then you'll know what the proper questions to answer. So that's our process. Otherwise, Prabhupada immediately engaged us in devotional service. Prabhupada had one disciple, Prabhakar, who would come and hear from Prabhupada. But then when Prabhupada asked him, so now I would like you to do this, he said, oh, no, I'm very busy studying. And later on he said, after Prabhupada left, in one interview, he said, I did not understand the process of surrender. I was just a curious university student wanting to get some knowledge. So knowledge, we don't get knowledge to reinforce our ahankar. We get knowledge to become more submissive and more surrendered. Yes, I think one more question and we can stop.
Thank you for the class, Maharaj. What is the practical steps for get rid of the false pride?
Practical steps, humble service. If you do humble service, just like one devotee in Gaudiya Math, he came to Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur and he said, I want to take sannyas. And he said, then you must do some humble service. So he went to the kitchen and he told the cook, I want to serve prasadam. He said, why? He said, because Guru Maharaj said I must do humble service. He said, serving prasadam is not humble service. Serving prasadam is elevated service. You come and wash the pots. No, that is humble service. No. And so, humble service doesn't mean our conception. It means the conception. We have to understand what is humility. No. Humility means, as Prabhupada said, you become like a menial servant. Not that humility means on my terms. I will be humble on my terms. We be humble on Krishna's terms. So thank you all very much for your kind attention. All glory to Srila Prabhupada, Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi.